Yeah, I have the usual. My son has soccer at 4:30, so if we were done, I get to drive him. If not, that's fine too. Then
Okay,
his mom can drive. But
we're going.
all right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the pod. My name is Kevin Donovan here with the CAF News with Brice Ominiski.
Hello, Kevin. Lots of stories today. I think the first thing is some, I think, important news from Microsoft with the layoffs there. And then
Mm.
we're going to get into some virtual reality, augmented reality discussions, and maybe ask some questions about the future, right? Are you mooing at me there, Kevin? Did I hear a moo?
I'm getting a little bit ahead in the script. Let's start with
Okay, well,
Microsoft.
let's wait till the story, and then we can moo at the story. So the first one, Microsoft, of course, is 3% layoff. And the big thing about this one, unlike say the 2023 layoff of 10,000 people, this one is about 6,000, 7,000 people being laid off. And it's non-performance based though. So what Microsoft has officially said is they want to align themselves globally with the ability to, or the ability to position AI better as they go forward. Is this a surprise to you? What do you think, Kevin?
When I first saw it, I thought it was a company, with 200,000 employees just kind of trimming, low performers. But it apparently is not as much cost cutting as reallocating headcount toward AI initiatives.
Yeah.
Copilot, Azure, AI Foundry. So yeah, it's more redirection, realignment. Legacy roles being shedded and skating to where the puck is headed, I guess.
I think if anything, it's going to represent a real opportunity. I mean, I know some people at Microsoft right now that have been laid off, really good developers. One's a director. And I think this
Mm.
is going to be, I think it's an opportunity for startups or people that are sort of fledgling that need to get really good people on board to maybe harvest some of these
Oh, picking
people.
up some of these people. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. By all means, if you're, looking for people, I imagine there's a number of people because this was not, low performers in general. It's not shrinking, it's, shape shifting.
Shape-shifting. I like
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
So going to our next topic, we're really seeing an amazing trend with engagement with simulations and virtual reality going to the edge, right? And, have you got milk? Like, moo, like the cows.
Mm.
So what's up with the cows, Kevin? What's happening with the cows?
Well, this was a story that I know you kind of like a quirky story every now and then. And this one
I
just,
do, I
popped
do.
right
This
out
this
at
is
me.
good.
Um, I believe it was not exactly double blind, but they were doing some research in Turkey and in the UK, literally strapping VR headsets onto cows so that cows that are, inside in the barn all day, it puts them in a lush virtual pasture.
Oh,
Kind of just, endless green pastures, reduces stress, number one. Not quite sure how they measure that, what the metric is, but it boosts milk yields. I think you were looking up and
yep.
like from 22 liters per day to 27. So not
Yes.
an insignificant boost. So yeah, kind of virtual welfare tech to enhance, animal environments if physical, improvements are limited. And yeah, digital escapism for cows.
Well, and
I
I
don't
think
know.
this is a broader trend where we're going to start to see more technology literally become easier to use, right? Like what can be easier than to put a virtual reality headset on a cow? And
Yeah.
and I mean that in like directly, right? And I don't mean that in any metaphorical way, right? It's like we're putting the headset on this cow. It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't know what buttons to hit. It's there. and we've extended that reality to it. The other one that I found really interesting that you brought up there is the Sony Enterprise Virtual PlayStation simulation.
Yeah,
And I mean,
right.
there we're going to this idea. I think we're moving the simulation from an augmented viewpoint almost to a virtual reality digital twin idea. I mean, we've seen Palantir doing this really successfully, digital twins for simulation. And now we've got the Sony thing. And I think this is really, well, I think it's illustrative of convergence of technologies like AI, simulation technologies, augmented reality starting to converge in a real way. That I think we heard the talk 5 years ago. I think it's happening now. Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, even just from the naming, this is PlayStation Virtual Reality Enterprise Edition, which is really interesting. You know, these high fidelity headsets for industrial use, defense training, manufacturing,
Yes.
aerospace. Uh, p- pretty interesting. You know, a move that would reduce costs. You know, kind of adding this appealing consumer gaming tech to the, you know, the work environment. I think it's a great move and could certainly pay off both, you know, adoption and you know, in cost savings. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's getting much more straightforward. And I mean, if we're giving virtual realities, like to your previous story with cows, I'm guessing the quality of these environments are way up compared to where they were 5 years ago, 2 years ago, even.
Oh,
I think
no
they're
doubt. Yeah.
probably very immersive. Like, yeah, that's
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
so
Probably.
yeah,
And then Snap doing something similar, and maybe who knows? Maybe there will be Snapchat glasses for enterprise at some point, but they're dipping their toe in the water by releasing a set of augmented reality glasses. At
yes.
this point, similar to Google for, gee, what I forget, 8 years ago or something, where they put out a developer edition of um, of those glasses that had Google Assistant built into them.
The
But
Google Glass.
Google Glass, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you know, I mean, the first thing I guess would be that you can use them just like you use your phone and lenses to, you know, create augmented reality little snaps that you send to people, but you can do it just with what you're looking at with the glasses on. And, you know, probably a good low risk, fun way to gain some experience, get some traction, and who knows where they could take it once they, you know, work out all the kinks in the system.
Yeah. And I mean,
Should
we're
be
seeing, I
interesting.
think right now, a whole bunch of technologies, right? I don't think it's slowing down. The last few days, we've seen the markets recover on some of the, world
Yeah.
global economic news. Pretty impressive actually to see Nvidia and some of, Palantir and some of these companies really do fairly well now. Mainly tech. I mean, I follow mainly tech. I don't know about the rest of the market. I'm assuming it might be a broad recovery, but more so on the tech side. And I think this is a sign that AI isn't slowing down. I saw one post also on a slightly different note from a colleague that was very interesting. They were talking about quantum advantage from IBM in the year 2026. Now, admittingly, that's the IBM target, but we're starting to see claims of things like this come out across the board, right? And it's not just AI, it's the converging technologies that I think are going to move quicker. And I think that's going to change the architectural landscape, Kevin. I think it's really more than ever going to be essential to be able to come up with architectures that for an enterprise understand what technologies they're going to use now in the future and how to integrate them and build them together. And I think we're going to see huge advances from an integration point of view on these things. Where do you think this is going, Kevin?
You know, the skeptic in me thought, well, IBM's optimism and announcements here have PR value. Um, Quantum advantage is what they're saying in
Yes,
2026, which is, you know, quantum computers outperforming classical compute
for
on
certain problems. For certain
meaningful
problems.
tasks, certain
Yes.
meaningful tasks. So if it's up to you to narrow that down, as I'm sure they will make it up to them, will there be some tasks that it can actually outperform? Well, that certainly could happen in 2026, yes. And will that then become a snowball, become an avalanche? Well, yeah, sure, probably. Um, I think they're up to 1,000+ qubit systems. So yeah, I mean, on the other hand, hardware is improving, but practicality and error correction, and that's gonna be tough. So there might be some well curated use cases that are presented,
Yes.
and general, usability and applicability might be a little further down the road. But it's science fiction
I,
for now, but who knows?
I think you're bang on. I just want to, interpret what you're sort of saying, and what I hear is that I think 2026, 2027, we're going to still see breakthroughs in these technologies that are huge. I think you're going to see that, like you said, the noise levels, the error rates on these computers go down, the number of entangled qubits go up, obviously, right? And there'll be at least one contrived use case that will be very solid to demonstrate that everything works well. But
Maybe.
the point is, it's not mainstream yet. It's probably I would say it's maybe a couple of years away to mainstream adoption, even after you do that, because you still have to. I don't think you just have to be on the cusp of being workable. I think you got to go a bit beyond it. You got to demonstrate without a doubt that you're there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, interesting and bold that they're, while there's some PR
Yeah,
benefit, it's bold that they're saying, yes, we will be there.
they're very confident, and it would be interesting to hear the players like Microsoft, Google, D-Wave, um,
Hmm.
the others,
Yeah.
IBM, say where are we at? Because I think at this point too, there's a lot of challenge. I mean, I don't really know who the quantum leader is right now, and I don't think it's really clear.
No, yeah, I was gonna ask, where are you placing your stock market bets, Bryce? What are you accumulating?
You know what? I'm not in quantum yet. I think there's still a run
Oh,
to go
yeah.
with Agentic, right? I was looking at an article the other day by Jeffrey Moore, who was pointing out Agentic AI, hasn't crossed the chasm yet, was the comment.
Oh, yeah,
And
no.
and I think that idea needs to be sort of brought up to the 25th, 2025, right? What does crossing the chasm mean? It's not about fear of technology. It's not like, the Sony versus Betamax thing, right? Where different people are afraid to use it, we're adopting it. I think the very nature of technology adoption is changing. And I think it's changing such that we're going to see a lot of convergence and a lot of adoption very quickly. I mean, it's really hard to not adopt it now. Like if you see something come out on the market, how do you know it's cutting edge that you would stay away? I mean, that's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah.
I would be
Yeah,
interesting to
certainly
hear
the
from
the
our
the rate of change and the rate of change is, yeah, increasing,
accelerating.
and adoption rates are, through the roof. They're unprecedented. So yeah.
I think the chasm now is about trust more than it is about widespread, fear of a technology,
Oh, that
right?
could
So, like
be.
to your point,
Yeah.
like it was like quantum, it's the error rates. With AI, there's some governance issues that need to be worked through yet, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see this with other technologies is making sure that this convergence really does happen. But I think the forces to move forward are becoming so overwhelming right now that we're going to start to see not just AI. And I think this is the thing that I think people, so talk about betting on stocks. I don't think large language models and agentic are going to be the quickest gainers in the stock. I think they're going to be healthy. I think we're going to see other technologies start to compete for rapid gains as they come into the business. They have good moats with their new technologies. They start to introduce them and they start to grow.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It would be great to see if you're watching this, put a comment below for us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think and maybe even start to address some of these other ideas that are out there on where technology is going. Kevin, great session today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
And
Thank you.
we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you. And